Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Pensacola, Florida, it's time for Pensacola Business Radio. Now, here are your Business Radio X hosts.
Welcome to all my Motoheads. You're listening to MotoTalk with Emily Elmore, brought to you by theMotoDoll and Pensacola's Business Radio X. We're bringing you stories of planes, cars, trucks, and things that go. And along the way, we'll learn about the incredible humans behind the motors and take the lessons learned on the road, in the cockpit, and under the hood to smash through our own roadblocks and journey boldly. My guest today is Kristie Tobias, smart, funny, and capable. And she, along with yours truly, is one of the featured speakers at the upcoming Shiro Warrior Conference put on by the Monument for Women's Veterans. This event is in Pensacola, March 8th, 9th, and 10th, and will inspire, empower, and ignite all who attend. There are events at DeLuna Winery, Pensacola State College, and the Women's Club of Pensacola, along with a block party Saturday night. Granny Nannies generously donated half of the desired ticket sales, so that means that the tickets are now at incredible pricing. You have to take advantage of it and make sure that you come at least one day to come out and support the Monument for Women's Veterans. Now, Kristie, I know that you're pumped for this event.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah. And before we talk a little more about that and your role in this conference, I want to get to know more about you. And we want to talk to you about everything that you've done that led up to you being a national speaker and a healthcare consultant for the Studer Group.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Emily, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled and pumped. Been a big fan of yours since we met back in October at our Pursue Your Passion conference, and beyond excited to spend some time with you today. So what led me to being a national speaker and consultant? If you asked my parents, they say I was born that way. So at 2 years old, I think that's when I started consulting. My first brother, I'm the oldest of four, my brother was born, and, I felt like he just needed a little help. So I helped coach him along when I was
good.
two.
Yeah. Told him he needed to do life better.
Exactly. Thank you. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
But no, in all honesty, I've spent my entire career in healthcare. So I've about the past 17 years, started out clinically in healthcare and then moved into the administrative route. And so within healthcare, as you know, it's a very complex business.
Yes.
And so we all need a little bit of help. But my background in healthcare was optimizing businesses. So even at the very beginning stages of my administrative track into healthcare, I realized there was always an opportunity for us to do work better and to work smarter, not harder. And as I've gone throughout that route, I actually have my bachelor's in healthcare administration, as I'm in communication, and then my master's in healthcare administration. And throughout that process, what I've identified is there's a really great opportunity for us to partner together with others. And so that's where consulting came in for me. So starting off working with the Studer Group, I moved into working with the Studer Group well into my career. I'd been working in human resources, organizational development, finance development, and really found a niche with guiding people on all levels of leadership development. So that's what Studer Group does. And so I've spent the past 5 years consulting both on leadership development and actually financial development as well. Traveled the world doing that. And as part of that work, I really get the chance to watch healthcare businesses and organizations grow, develop, and their leaders grow and develop. And it's been a passion of mine for a very long time. And I just absolutely love being able to take that beyond just healthcare, but even to local businesses. So one of the things that I also do within Pensacola is I consult nonprofit organizations, and I'm also on the board of directors for Ronald McDonald House. So I do a little bit of consulting there as well. I think we have a lot of great opportunities to grow our community, and sometimes we just don't have the resources to do that. So with organizations like the Studer Group, and then also nonprofits like Studer Community Institute, I get to share my areas of expertise, which really is guiding people to be a better version of themselves.
Wow, that's awesome. So my dad is a nonprofit guy himself, and that's something he actually has talked to me about quite a bit, is that people have really great vision, they have a huge heart, but they don't necessarily have the experience with all of the administrative components that you were just talking about. So they may be able to provide services that are exceptional, but they don't necessarily know how best to optimize running those services so they can stretch that dollar if they're a nonprofit, or so that they can earn more dollars and provide more services if they are for profit. So that's amazing. That's exactly the kind of thing that grows the community, and I bet that's really rewarding work.
Absolutely. And it's the thing about it too is it's, people fall into their careers or they fall into certain things. I truly believe that we're all led to a purpose, and I know that my purpose is to help better people and the community. I'm great at guiding people on where they can actually be a better fit for their organization, and where that organization can then take the community to the next level. So when you find that you've got that expertise and skill, I think sometimes we try, and especially as women, we try and hide that light. And I am all about letting that light not only shine, but sharing it with the world. So what better way than in this type of business that we get to work in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so along with that, you're developing very specific skills, hard skills, soft skills as well. And then also along with that, so when I met you, you were really pushing empowerment, which, it's, if you're there and ready with a seminar and education, like you're the woman for that. But then you're also just like this really energetic, like vibrant person that is just wonderful to listen, talk, and just to be around. So that was something that I immediately gravitated towards. And I'm really glad that you're a part of this now, because this Shiro Women's Warrior Conference isn't just for vets. It's for the community. It's to empower all of the women in the community. And for somebody like me, who is a transitioning veteran, I'm being medically retired here, it is just so special to be a part of Pensacola's community, because they really have your back. So it's, hey, great, thank you for your service, but also like welcome to us, and what service can we provide? So you have all been such a wonderful service to me also. So first I want to say thank you for that and getting to know you and being part of that. And then also tell me about your drive to empower women, because that's when I first met you, was at the Powerful Women of the Gulf Coast, who's one of the partners for the Shiro event. It was at that conference, the Pursue Your Passion conference. And I just want to know a little bit about why you're motivated and driven to empower women around you.
It's a great question. And it's something that I could talk about for days. I won't, but I could.
Yeah.
So I'm big on the people in your life should always have people, or you should always have people in your life who mentor you and guide you and support you. So my mother is my biggest support system, my rock. She came here from Jamaica when she was about 17 years old, and just has shown me the way, and I try and emulate her in everything I do. But beyond that, when I was about 20 years old, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And with that type of diagnosis, I'm not a veteran. I've never been in the military. And a 20-year-old young Black female with PTSD, it's you kind of get looked at a little funny, and people are like, well, why? Like, what happened in your life? And, one of the things that I will tell you is oftentimes as women, we are in situations that we didn't expect to be put in. Everyone is at some point in time, but especially as women. And I was in a situation that I should never have been in, and it changed my life. It changed everything that I believed in. It changed who I am, who I was. For anyone that has PTSD, you become a shell of yourself. You don't remember the person you were before. You don't really identify with who you are now. And I went through a really dark period. I was on suicide watch. I was very angry. I self-harmed. Anything and everything that I could do to just try and destroy myself, I did. And throughout that process, I had a group of, I call them my check yourself crew, but a group of very strong, powerful women who would later on become, my mother's always my best friend, but I have a group of 5 of us who are my rocks, and they will always support me, and they're always there for me. And we've been friends for over a decade, but they helped take me to the next level of moving beyond just the pain that I was going through. And I could have stayed in that dark spot, but I realized that there's so much more, and there's so many other people who needed that support. And so I made a promise to myself. It took a very long time to get out of that dark spot, let me tell you that for sure. But when I made the promise to myself to move forward, I knew I had to consistently not just do that, but take other people with me. And so I learned along the journey that as women, we have a responsibility to help guide other women along their journey. You never know what someone is going through, but you always know that you need a partner along the way. I truly believe we weren't meant to live this life alone. And so if I can do that by just bringing one person with me and empowering them, then I feel like I'm doing not just myself, but this community a service that goes far beyond just my own personal growth, but really helps grow women to be the powerful, strong, gorgeous, empowered and inspired women that we were supposed to be.
Wow. Yeah. Your story, that you shared your vulnerability with us at that conference. I think that speaks volumes about you, that it was just a chapter of your life, but it isn't the book of your life. And that by sharing that with the women that were there, gave us the courage to also just recognize, hey, the trauma that is in our life, it exists. It helps to define who we can become. but it isn't who we are. And I think that was just such an incredible message that you shared then. And so it's really incredible to hear that, that this dark period was really the thing that started like this brilliant light that you were able to share with the rest of us for like the rest of your life. So that's really incredible that was able to be transitioned into something so special. Even though I know that it, when you look back on it, it doesn't feel that way, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, no, not at all. So there's a couple different places I want to go with that. But first I'll say that, so for me, the thing that really got me into wanting to empower and speak with women also happened around college, but under very different circumstances. So I actually watched Malcolm X by Spike Lee, of all things. And he was talking about how, the Black community was trying to fit in with the white community to the point where they were ostracizing each other if they didn't fit inside of that community. And I realized while watching this, and although obviously I don't identify with the Black community, and I don't want to try to take anything from the Black community struggle, but certainly by watching that, I recognized that I was going to a school that only had 16% of females, and we were very competitive against each other, and we really undercut, and there's a lot of backbiting. And I realized very quickly, all of a sudden, that we were trying to fit into the good old boys club early on, and that all of us were trying so hard to fit inside of that club that we were ostracizing ourselves also and not helping the fellow women that were also brilliant and beautiful and capable and interested in the same things that I was or that my friends were. But now all of a sudden it was like if we acknowledged their light, that somehow that would dim our own. And so I was watching that and I was like, oh my God, right? And all of a sudden it just immediately inspired me to adopt what I called my policy of non-contention. So what it was that if I immediately felt kind of that aggressive, even almost competitive feeling just by virtue of somebody being capable, smart, and beautiful, that I was like, oh no, check yourself, right? And it's like, hey, get to know this person. Like, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? Like, what are their goals? Can you assist each other with your goals along the way? And then later pulling in this concept of, not isolating the other person, but insulating them like inside of your own group. So if somebody is engaged in behavior that you think may reflect poorly on your group, like being a woman in the military in an officer position, if there's certain behavior that you think might be reflected poorly on that, bringing them in and giving them the professional and personal courtesy of describing like how that behavior could potentially impact them negatively or could impact the community negatively. And all of a sudden they were really pushing that forward also. And then it was just this concept that was getting paid forward very early on. And that as I matured inside of my career, realizing that other women were hungry for that and they were really quick to also do that as well. And along the way, there were other women who had realized it, but only after maturing. And so I feel really fortunate that I was able to see that early on and then to hopefully try to be, a source of empowerment for the other women. So that was something that I just thought was just so interesting when I was, young and being like, oh, like this is something that matters to me. I want to make sure that I provide women the personal and professional courtesy to grow and develop, as leaders and be in the position to really make an impact and to influence others. And, I think that all of us have different experiences that lead up to understanding that concept, but at different times in our lives and through very different means of doing it. So also, as we continue this conversation on the travels that we have made, both metaphorically and actual travels, you travel all the time.
I do. I live in the airport, actually.
That's right. You just got back, right? A couple days ago? Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, just got back.
And you're probably going to be gone next week.
I am, yeah. It's pretty much story of my life. I'm literally best friends with TSA agents.
You know them? You're like,
I do, by name. They call me by my first name. You have to get your given name. Yeah. They don't call me by my given name. They call me by my actual nickname, which is Kristie. So, and the TSA agents know me by name.
That's awesome. So along with that, like I said, in the beginning, you heard that we like to talk about planes, cars, trucks, things that go, right? That's something that I was always very interested in as a young person. I was an Air Force pilot for 9 years, and I've I've worked on a lot of vehicles up until I lost the use of my right arm. I was really heavily invested in all of those communities. And so a way that I continue to be invested in those communities is by talking with folks a little bit about their own motor story. And, I gave you a little heads up and told you I was going to ask you that. So, but even then, a lot of people don't realize that they have motor stories. And so it's fun to also draw it out. So if we start one way and we end somewhere else, we'll just see where it goes. So tell me about your favorite motor experience, whether that's a travel experience in the air, in rideshare, in the metro, whatever it was. Tell me the person or the thing that just sticks with you.
Gosh, I have so many. I'll tell you one. That's from when I was younger. And then I've got another one that I think is also notable to share. But when I was younger, my dad does not fly at all. Like, he does not fly anywhere. I got him on a plane like once and he's like, this is like white knuckling it. Yeah. Bless him. He hates flying. But there are 4 kids and then my parents who are still together. And so as kids though, it is expensive period to fly. Yes. So we used to drive everywhere.
And a hassle.
Oh,
I have 2 little babies and I'm just like, I don't ever want to do this again. Right? I used to love flying.
Crazy. And I think about that. I'm like, I don't have kids yet, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But when we were younger, we used to take road trips everywhere. And you guys know how big Florida is. People think Florida is a lot smaller than it is. Like from one part of Florida, like from top to bottom, it's 14 hours easily. And so my dad's family lives in South Florida. We lived in North Carolina. And so we would take road trips from North Carolina to Florida probably like every holiday. Yeah. So easily 14 plus hour drive. My dad loved it. So I'm a daddy's girl. So it's me, 2 boys, and my baby sister. And my mom would fall asleep within the first 10 minutes of the drive, of course. My brothers are back there being boys, fighting or arguing about something. And then my sister is usually just zoning out because she's very good at entertaining herself. So it was always my dad and I. I would just sit up front with him, which is highly entertaining because we don't sleep. We're not sleepers at all. So we'll just chat. At some point in time, my mom will wake up, look at us like, why?
They're still talking.
They're still talking. But as a little girl, like I remember when I was 10 years old, very specifically, we were driving from, this may have been Alabama at this point, down to Miami. And we talked, it was like 3 a.m., talked for hours about everything. Birds and the bees, life, and my parents are very educated. They both had their PhDs. Like, they are very open with that education as well. And I just remember that being the best time. As a kid, you get a little annoyed being in the car for a long period of time with your family. Yeah. But I remember feeling like such a grown up, sitting up front with my dad, helping him navigate. Because that was the thing, is like, if you're up front,
it's important.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you've got to navigate.
/ you got to work the radio.
Exactly. Right? And this was before GPS. So we had an actual map.
The atlas. I remember that. You got like a pen. You're like, nope, not that.
Not that. It's how I realized I suck at all types of navigation. Like, I'm terrible. I probably should not have been the navigator, but my dad had already mapped it out. But like, it will always stick in my head as one of my favorite experiences as a kid, because I would just sit there with the atlas and with the map and just writing it down. I think at that point we could go onto Google and Google the directions, but they weren't always accurate.
Oh yeah.
But it was just me and my dad sitting up front with everyone else in the back of the mom van, and it's my all-time favorite experience for sure as a kid.
That's wonderful. So I have a lot of fun travel stories also. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely true. Like, when you're there. And then, so my dad and I, we would take trips also. So my dad was also active duty military. He is an enlisted guy. And he picked me up. I want to say we were in Texas to start. I don't remember why, or maybe we were in Kansas. It doesn't matter, because it was like 1,000 miles of antelope reclamation territory. Okay, there was nothing out there. Just absolutely nothing. And my dad and I had this hilarious habit of getting stranded together with minimal resources. So it's funny that you're mentioning this really great story with your dad, because I have, similar, like, we would travel a lot between Texas, where his family was, and then Kansas, where he was stationed. And we ended up getting stuck once. And to this day, he can't put the hazards on, because it's just that click, 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 click from like 9 hours of us sitting waiting for a car, any car, to just come down and pick us up or to, let us call, because same, time frame was early on. There wasn't really, and there was no internet along the way, right? Like cell phones weren't really reliable, especially in the middle of antelope country. So, so it was really great. But that's funny that you mentioned that, because it's one of my favorites also, just hanging out with Dad, traveling. And
dads are fun.
Yeah. Oh, they are. Absolutely the best.
Oh, man. So, yeah, that's definitely my kid's story. I'll tell you a really funny adult story. So
I can't wait.
Oh, man. So it kind of ties into earlier, as I'd mentioned, post-traumatic stress disorder. Right after I was diagnosed, I actually spent an entire summer abroad in both Russia and Kenya. And so when I went to Kenya, I was working with the HIV/AIDS crisis, and we were like, we're going to take 2 days and we're just going to have a little bit of a break. So we were going to go on safari. So we went to safari in Masai Mara, but you have to take a little commuter plane, doesn't even describe it. Take a toy plane and then just magnify it by 5, and that was our plane.
Oh no!
So you have this tiny
this is totally safe, right?
Of course.
If the engine goes, it's a glider. It's fine.
It's fine. Just slide right in. So speaking of that,
antelope reclamation country.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. So we didn't realize at all. This plane picks up others. Like, it doesn't just go straight to your destination. It's supposed to pick up other people. We didn't know that. No one told us that.
It's like the Uber of the air.
It was the Uber of the air, basically, back before Uber was ever popular.
Yeah.
And so as we're riding, and there's no runway where we are. It's just dirt.
Equally reliable pilot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, I feel safe. And we're just flying along, and all of a sudden we start nosediving.
Oh no.
Nosediving towards the ground. And we're like, this is it. Like, we're legitimately screaming at this point. Oh, no. We nosedive towards the ground and then do a nice smooth landing. People get on the plane and we go again. We're like, what just happened? So apparently that's how you pick people up on your way to Masai Mara in Kenya. I had no idea. But that was by far one of my most memorable, terrifying, and thrilling experiences.
And yet thrilling, yeah.
And yet thrilling, but it was wonderful. It was bonded really well with the pilot at that point too, because I was like, listen, sir, I need you to tell me anything else that's going to happen. Like, who else are we picking up? Like, what else is happening?
Are we going to be spiraling up into the air?
Right.
Are we running away from lions?
Plane.
So one of the experiences I had also flying in Africa, I got to be the pilot though in this case.
Of course you did.
Yeah. So baboons they're everywhere.
They
all right.
are.
And so you think
mean.
Yes. Oh my gosh, they are so mean.
So mean.
Oh yeah, you have to watch out. And they're huge.
Yes.
That's the other thing.
Aggressive and mean.
Yes. And so, here in the States, when you're trying to go down the runway, you have to look out for wildlife. A lot of times there's geese or something else that you could ingest inside of an engine. Very dangerous. The scariest time that I ever took off, actually a flock of geese came up, and just by the grace of God, we didn't hit them. Otherwise we would have had all engines flame out. But that's what you expect here. Maybe a deer, sometimes a coyote. I've seen an Arctic fox once. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
So all of a sudden it's like, hey, is that snowdrift? And you're just like, oh no, there's something on the runway. Go around. But but anyway, yeah. And so you hear that, coming over the radio. They're like, hey, watch out. There's, a group of baboons on the runway. And you're like, well, didn't think I'd ever hear that. All right. You're like trying not to. You're like, get out of the way.
They're
Stupid
not listening.
monkeys.
I'm sure they weren't listening. They're like, nope, this is my runway.
Yeah. I mean, the C-130 is a very loud airplane. You would think it would freak them out, barreling at them. It's huge. And they're ready to go. They're ready to throw bows at this thing. Yeah.
That's what baboons do.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So Africa, good times.
Africa is always good times.
All right. Well, I guess we should probably wrap up with some information about the Monument to Women's Veterans. So it is in collaboration with Powerful Women of the Gulf Coast and the Women's Club of Pensacola. They're hosting this exciting event on March 8th, 9th, and 10th, just like we talked about. Now, it's the Monument to Women's Veterans that is benefiting from all the proceeds of the tickets and everything else, but it is not an event just for women vets. You're not a woman vet, and you are there to empower and inspire and to help the women there catch fire and lead their best lives. So with that being said, make sure that you're coming out. Also, if you're a dude, you are more than welcome to come out. So if you heard my previous episode, we were talking a little bit about partnerships and how valuable that those have been along my career, and I'm sure, Kristie, your career.
Absolutely.
Right. And so we would not develop as leaders or as friends or as good family members if we were just, taking all the advice and mentorship from our male partners and just casting it aside. So please come out. You guys have been instrumental to us and great supporters. We would love you to continue to support through this great event, the Shiro Warrior Conference. All right, just so that you guys know what you can expect for this event, on Friday, that's going to be at the DeLuna Winery. That space there is going to welcome us with hors d'oeuvres and wine tasting. And then also an artist has generously donated her time and materials for women to paint.
Love
and
it.
so, yeah, it's just going to be this really awesome, fun event, great for networking, lots of fun food, wine. Come on out Friday night. And then Saturday, we've got Saturday morning, which will continue that tradition of eating, right? With continental breakfast.
It's what we do.
It's going to be wonderful. All 3 days have food. So we got the continental breakfast. There's going to be speakers. Chick-fil-A has generously donated lunches for everybody. So come on
More
out,
food.
enjoy that. Oh, yeah. And then there's a block party that evening, right?
I mean, you're saying the great words here.
Yeah. Yeah. So wine, beer, food. We're just going to say that over and over again. And some super rad ladies that are going to help you determine what the best food is and why you should not feel guilty about eating it.
Never.
Ever.
Never.
No. And so, so Saturday evening, block party, there's going to be a silent auction, karaoke, food vendors, free beer. Sunday, that's when I'll be speaking, and there's going to be a brunch at the Women's Club of Pensacola. So same thing, come out, feel empowered. And then, if you come out, it's going to celebrate also International Women's Empowerment Day. It falls on that weekend.
Yes, it does.
It does.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So that's all that I have for everyone today. Thank you so much for listening in. There are some opportunities to be a sponsor, a vendor, or a volunteer for this event. Please go to the website and register today. The website is sherowarrior.com. That's like hero with an S for shero.com. Or you can check it out on Eventbrite. And I'll catch you all later.
I want to thank everybody for listening today. My name's Keith Hilbert. This has been Pensacola Business Radio. You can find us at Picola Radio X on Twitter, Picola BRX on Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn at businessradioxstudios.pensacola, or you can find us on Instagram at Pensacola Business Radio, or on our websites at businessradiox.com, or on our live feed at businessradiox.live. If you are interested in being a guest on Business Radio X, please visit either one of our sites or our social media sites to find a link to book your appearance. This has been Pensacola Business Radio, where business is good and your work matters.